whilst I'm not against the idea of having memorials, I also do question the use of spending so much time debating on the issue of memorials. We're not short of memorials in Singapore. We've got Kranji, we've got the Civil War Memorial, we've got the Tan Kim Seng Memorial, we've got memorials everywhere. But how much of it has actually impacted the way we think and carry out our duties as Singaporeans? How much of it has really impacted the way we live our lives as Singaporeans and our Singaporean identity? PM and other speakers have spoken about how Mr. Lee had his ideals and wanted us to carry on those ideals, and that the best way for us to honor his memory and that of our founding fathers would be to carry on those ideals. How are we going to ensure, I thought would be a more important question, how are we going to ensure those ideals are shared and imbibed by all Singaporeans, are carried on through the generations, so that we will always be proud to say that we are Singaporeans, so that we always say we believe in those ideals. We can have a memorial, but after all, people will look at the memorials and, oh, yeah, he did something for Singapore. But it's the ideals, the values that are so important to make sure that we continue to thrive and to be strong as a nation. And so perhaps also we might want to think about how our children can be educated instead of just, being told about certain days to remember, but exactly what a difference those days made to us, and how we can make that difference too, and how children in schools can be taught those ideas and they can imbibe that, and it becomes a part of the psyche, the Singaporean psyche. But to do that, we also need to have educators who believe in that. How do we ensure that our teachers believe in that, our principals believe in that? How do we ensure that our civil servants believe in that? Do we all do that, or are we just here to do a job? And I thought that maybe as Singaporeans, that's what we want to be thinking about as well, that as we reflect on the solidarity that we have shown, thankfully for that, and yet something that we should not take for granted, because it is something that we must develop and entrench within the way we think and the way that we live our lives. So I urge also the government to think about how we can help our citizens, particularly our children, to remember all these things. Thank you.
I agree fully with Ms. Chia Yong Yong on her very sensible views. Indeed, it is the ideals and the way we live our lives which is much more important than any physical thing you build. And yet, it is helpful to have what you might call a local habitation and a form for that abstract ideals, to focus the mind, to generate the emotion, and to bond people. Everybody has that. The Israelis have Masada. Every recruit goes there, he's presented his rifle there, he remembers events 2,000 years ago, relevant to their spirit today. You go to other countries in Britain, you go to Parliament Square, you've got Winston Churchill's statue there. Trafalgar Square, you've got Nelson's statue there. You go to Washington, on the Mall, it's a pilgrimage, not a tourist visit, especially if you visit the Vietnam War Memorial or the Second World War Memorial, which I just visited last year. It focuses your mind and brings people together. So too with our week of national mourning and a state funeral service. It's a form, right? But it meant something to the participants, and it left an indelible mark, and it changed them. We had, by chance, a choir come through Singapore, St. John's College, Cambridge. And because of the Cambridge connection, they offered to sing at the Lying in State downstairs. And they came, they did a beautiful rendition of Home. It was such a success that we decided we would ask other school choirs and other performing groups, including Jeremy Montero and his group, to come and perform during the Lying in State. It was a tremendous success. Not just for the people who came to pay respects, but for the people who came to sing. And as one of the school children said, it's not a performance, it's a tribute. So you need these symbols, these physical things, but what are they which are full of meaning and not empty? And that's what we're looking for. Education is an important part of this. After the national mourning period, I think, we're rethinking how we can do the national education content in the school so that you try to get some of the same impact. Otherwise, I can write the best textbooks in the world, but between the textbook and the presenter and the listener, or not very hard listener, each stage there's attrition, diminution, dilution. Eventually, you get an empty message rather than something substantial. And yet, if we can have one really powerful experience, and it's emotional as much as it is intellectual, then I think you bring people together. That's in the schools. On TV, we've had 1 week of old footage broadcast. It took many years to assemble all that material. First, to create that material, living it. Secondly, to gather it all together, organize it, and present it. And I think it had a big impact. And at another time, it might have had not quite so much, but at that moment, it reminded people what all this was about. And I think we need to do more of that during this SG 50 year and beyond, not in a big gush of overwhelming information, but a continuing trickle just to remember ourselves where we come from and what we should be committing ourselves to. And I think that way we will be able to achieve our bigger objectives.